In a move that has sent shockwaves through the tech world, the U.S. Department of Justice has filed a landmark antitrust lawsuit against Apple. This isn't just another legal skirmish, it's a frontal assault on the very foundation of Apple's iconic iPhone ecosystem. The core accusation is that Apple has leveraged its dominance to illegally maintain a monopoly in the smartphone market, stifling competition and innovation. The stakes are immense, not only for Apple and its trillion-dollar valuation, but for consumers, developers, and the future landscape of digital technology. This case could redefine how we interact with our most personal devices. For years, Apple has masterfully crafted a seamless experience, a so-called walled garden where hardware, software, and services are intricately intertwined. This integration, from the secure biometric unlocks to the intuitive iOS interface, is often lauded by users for its simplicity and reliability. However, the Department of Justice argues that this tight control extends beyond user experience, creating an ecosystem that intentionally limits choice and competition. Apple's control over its App Store, payment systems, and essential APIs is central to how it maintains this powerful, yet allegedly exclusionary, environment for its users and third-party developers. Attorney General Merrick Garland formally announced the antitrust lawsuit, stating unequivocally that Apple has engaged in a course of conduct that has stifled innovation. The DOJ contends that Apple's alleged illegal monopoly is not merely a consequence of superior products but a deliberate strategy to erect barriers to entry and expansion for competitors. This action underscores a broader commitment from the U.S. government to challenge powerful tech companies perceived to be abusing their market positions. The core argument is that Apple has systematically used its control to prevent the emergence of new technologies and business models that could threaten its iPhone dominance. One of the key allegations is Apple's alleged suppression of what the DOJ calls super apps. These are envisioned as platforms, much like WeChat in China, that integrate a vast array of services, messaging, payments, social media, and more, into a single application. The lawsuit claims Apple allegedly restricted the functionality and deep integration of potential super apps, preventing them from becoming viable alternative gateways to a user's digital life. By doing so, the DOJ argues, Apple ensured that the iPhone's operating system remained the primary interface, maintaining its ecosystem lock-in and preventing competitors from offering a unified, cross-platform experience. The DOJ also points to Apple's handling of cloud streaming game apps as an anti-competitive tactic. Services like Xbox Cloud Gaming and NVIDIA GeForce now offer vast libraries of games streamed directly to devices without large downloads. However, Apple's App Store rules historically required that each individual game within these cloud services be submitted as a separate app for review. The DOJ claims this created an insurmountable logistical hurdle, effectively blocking these services from the iPhone and preventing a major shift in how games are consumed, thereby maintaining Apple's control over the mobile gaming market and its substantial revenue share. Perhaps one of the most visible and emotionally charged allegations revolves around messaging. The lawsuit explicitly cites Apple's refusal to adopt universal cross-platform messaging standards, specifically referring to the long-standing green bubble versus blue bubble dynamic of iMessage. The DOJ argues that by maintaining iMessage exclusivity and failing to fully interoperate with Android messages, which appear as green bubbles, Apple creates social pressure, especially among younger users, to choose an iPhone. This, according to the government, is a deliberate strategy to reinforce Apple's market position and make it more difficult for users to switch to competing smartphone platforms. The DOJ also takes aim at Apple's control over its digital wallet infrastructure. Unlike many Android devices, Apple restricts third-party digital wallets from accessing the iPhone's near-field communication, or NFC, chip for contactless payments. This effectively makes Apple Pay the exclusive tap-to-pay option on the iPhone. The lawsuit contends that this limitation stifles competition in mobile payment solutions, limits consumer choice, and allows Apple to potentially extract higher fees from financial institutions and merchants. This practice, the government argues, prevents innovative payment services from reaching iPhone users. Another point of contention is how Apple allegedly restricts third-party smartwatches from fully integrating with the iPhone. While many smartwatches can connect to iPhones for basic functions, the lawsuit claims that Apple limits access to crucial features and APIs that would allow competing smartwatches to offer a comparable experience to the Apple Watch. This effectively makes the Apple Watch the most appealing, and often only fully functional, option for iPhone users. The DOJ asserts this strategy further entrenches Apple's dominance by creating a disincentive for users to choose alternative smartwatches, thereby solidifying its ecosystem. The Department of Justice also scrutinizes Apple's long-standing relationships with cellular carriers. The lawsuit alleges that Apple has engaged in exclusive or highly preferential deals with carriers, which have made iPhones more attractive or even temporarily exclusive in certain markets. These agreements, according to the DOJ, reinforce Apple's market position by making it harder for competing smartphone manufacturers to gain traction with carrier support and promotions. By controlling distribution channels through these strategic partnerships, Apple allegedly further solidifies its hold on the smartphone market, reducing competition and limiting consumer options for purchasing devices. Apple, for its part, is expected to mount a vigorous defense. The company traditionally argues that its integrated ecosystem is paramount for delivering superior security, privacy, and an unmatched user experience. They assert that their practices foster competition, pointing to the vibrant App Store with millions of applications from developers worldwide. Apple maintains that they are simply creating the best possible products and experiences, and that these innovations naturally lead to strong consumer loyalty. Their defense will likely center on the idea that innovation, not anti-competitive behavior, is the reason for their success, emphasizing user protection and product quality. The Department of Justice argues that Apple's alleged monopoly practices come at a direct cost to consumers. With reduced competition in areas like payment options, messaging, and smartwatch compatibility, users are often locked into Apple's ecosystem, potentially paying a premium for devices and services without readily available, equally integrated alternatives. The DOJ contends that this lack of competition stifles the innovation that would otherwise lead to more diverse, affordable, and feature-rich options across the entire smartphone market. Consumers, the lawsuit suggests, are paying more and getting less choice due to these alleged restrictive practices. For developers, the lawsuit paints a picture of restricted creativity and limited market access. The DOJ claims that Apple's stringent App Store guidelines and its tight control over access to core iPhone technologies stifle innovation and prevent developers from reaching their full potential. Developers, according to the lawsuit, are forced to adhere to Apple's rules, which can limit their ability to create competing features, offer alternative services, or even effectively monetize their creations outside Apple's prescribed pathways. This, the government argues, raises significant barriers to entry for smaller companies and stifles a more vibrant, competitive app economy. This isn't the first time the US government has taken on a tech giant accused of monopolistic behavior. Many draw parallels to the landmark antitrust case against Microsoft in the late 1990s, where the company was accused of abusing its Windows operating system monopoly to crush competition in web browsers. While the technological landscape has evolved, the core principle remains similar: how much control can a dominant company exert over its ecosystem before it becomes illegal? These historical precedents underscore the government's recurring intent to ensure fair competition, even against the most powerful corporations, and add a layer of historical significance to the Apple case. So, what are the potential outcomes of this monumental legal challenge? One possibility is a settlement. Both parties, recognizing the immense costs and uncertainties of a protracted trial, could choose to negotiate an agreement outside of court. This might involve Apple making specific concessions, such as loosening its App Store rules, allowing greater access to hardware features like the NFC chip, or even paying a substantial fine. A settlement would offer a quicker resolution and allow Apple to maintain more control over the terms, avoiding the potentially more drastic remedies a judge might impose after a full trial, but would likely still require significant changes. Alternatively, the case could proceed to a full trial, a process that could unfold over several years, involving extensive discovery, testimony, and legal arguments. If the Department of Justice ultimately prevails, a judge could impose significant remedies. These might include forcing Apple to fundamentally alter its business practices, such as requiring it to open up its ecosystem, allow third-party app stores, or unbundle certain services from the iPhone. While less common in recent antitrust cases, the most extreme outcome could even involve structural remedies, though outright breaking up parts of Apple's operations would be a truly rare and dramatic result. Regardless of whether there's an initial win for Apple or the DOJ, appeals are almost guaranteed. Given the high stakes, the vast resources of both parties, and the complexity of antitrust law in the digital age, either side is likely to challenge an unfavorable ruling in higher courts. This means the legal battle could extend for many, many years, potentially impacting Apple's long-term strategic planning, its product development, and the tech industry landscape for the foreseeable future. The path through the appellate courts is often lengthy, delaying any final resolution and leaving a cloud of uncertainty over Apple's future business model. Beyond Apple itself, the outcome of this lawsuit could send ripples across the entire tech industry. A ruling against Apple could set a significant precedent for how other dominant technology companies, particularly those with vast integrated ecosystems, are allowed to operate. It might encourage increased antitrust scrutiny on other major players, potentially leading to a more open, competitive environment for hardware, software, and services across various platforms. Conversely, an Apple victory could embolden tech giants to maintain or even tighten their control, impacting innovation and competition for years to come. This case is truly a bellwether. Ultimately, the core of this battle revolves around the iPhone user experience. While the DOJ aims to empower consumers with more choice, lower prices, and greater flexibility, some argue that dismantling Apple's walled garden could introduce fragmentation, reduce security, or lead to a less integrated and potentially more confusing user experience. The delicate balance between fostering competition and maintaining a coherent, secure ecosystem is central to this debate. Will users gain unprecedented freedom, or will the very qualities they appreciate about the iPhone become diluted? The answer will unfold over many years, shaping digital life for millions. For Apple, this lawsuit represents an existential challenge to its long-established business model. It's not just about potential fines, it's about the very core of how Apple designs, distributes, and monetizes its products and services. The outcome will inevitably redefine Apple's strategic direction, its approach to innovation, and its competitive stance in the global tech market. A loss could force fundamental shifts in its operations, while a victory could solidify its current trajectory, albeit under intense scrutiny. The legal battle threatens to reshape the identity of a company that has become synonymous with innovation and user experience. This antitrust case against Apple is more than just a legal dispute, it's a defining moment for the relationship between government regulation and technological innovation. It forces a critical examination of where the line lies between legitimate business practices and monopolistic abuse in the digital economy. The world will be watching as this drama unfolds, knowing that the ultimate decision will not only shape the destiny of Apple but will also establish precedents that could govern the competitive landscape of the entire digital economy for decades to come. The future of innovation, competition, and consumer choice hangs in the balance.